Another school, this time in Seattle, teaches kids to view cops as racists. Hardly a surprise in Seattle, where the entire mayor and city council view racist anarchists as social justice pioneers. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and last time I checked, Seattle's still burning. Hello everyone and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today we start in Seattle, where area schools are pushing left-wing activism and teaching second graders that cops are racist, indelibly racist.
Of course they are. Duh, we should have known that already. Well, you know, we don't have Chaz Chop anymore, which R.I.P. Chaz Chop, but they have their own little way of getting their ideas out to the public, and it's happening in our second grade classrooms, specifically at Grove Elementary School, where students were asked to watch a video, and the video was said to teach kids that racist police routinely target innocent Black Americans. It's a YouTube video, and it was titled Animation Series, Something Happened in Our Town. Take a look.
Josh asked his mother, "Can police go to jail?" "Yes," said his mother. "Why do you ask?" "That white policeman who shot the black man," said Josh. "Will he go to jail?" "What he did was wrong," said his mother. "But he won't go to jail," said his father. "Why not?" asked Josh. "Cops stick up for each other," said Josh's brother Malcolm. "And they don't like black men."
How do you know the shooting was wrong? How do you know that white cop who shot that black man was wrong? Will he go to, how do you know? How do you know that?
It doesn't matter, because cops stick up for cops, and that's all that they care about.
We keep hearing that police are racist. Doesn't there have to be some piece of sociological evidence behind that? Mm-hmm. I mean, because if you want to start dragging statistics into this, if you want to start attacking that claim, you're not going to win people who want to make the argument that cops are racist. Because we've reached the point where even to point out the FBI's own statistics means you are a white supremacist.
Yep. Basically.
So here we go, right? More whites than cops are killed every year. More unarmed white people are killed every year than unarmed black people are. Of the 13 or so black people that were killed without being armed last year, that doesn't mean all of them were innocent sitting in their living room when a police bullet came wandering through the window. No. These were people engaged with violent interactions with police officers. Here's another thing. The likelihood of an African-American male being involved with the police is higher than almost any other group. That's just a fact. So if you belong to a group who disproportionately involves itself with the police by engaging in behavior that allows people to call the cops on you, well, then what do you think is going to happen here? And none of this, by the way, is an apology for those handful of bad cops who do bad things. But if you're going to start teaching little children that to be a police officer, to be a black police officer for that matter, means that you are inherently racist and part of an inherently racist organization, you have to be able to prove that, and you can't prove that.
And for this story, if you read the entire story, again, you can watch it on YouTube if you really want to, but I don't recommend it. It's actually a twofold story. So the overarching story is that a police officer shot a black male, and then it's actually told from the perspective of two young kids. One is a young white girl, and then the other is the young black boy, and you already heard the young black boys, kind of a little bit of their side. But in the book, it says, when the white girl asks why police shot the man, she's told by her sister that the cops shot him because he was black. The girl's mom says it was a mistake to shoot the man, noting that it was a mistake that is part of a pattern where white people are treated well, but not black people. So no matter what, they're trying to make it so, well, I identify with the black boy, and so then I'm going to, listen to that.
So
racist, I'm the white kid, and white guilt in racism.
You listen to the black kid's narrative, and it's never about the law. It's never about what was going on. It's never about what position some of these African-American men are putting cops in. No. Then you flip it over and you listen to the girl's story. And the girl's story is the same story about how we're so privileged. This never happens to us, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this is classic stereotypical nonsense. I mean, and the scary thing that this is getting into kids' middle school classrooms, right?
It's second grade. They're
elementary school.
Yeah, they're 7 years old, I think, at this point. About 7 years old. And I'm trying to think back, second grade, what were we reading? I always try and take it back. What was I learning? And it was more about learning about you to be a good person, not the systemic racism of the country and being just inundated with that.
One of the ways you were a good citizen is following laws.
Exactly.
Right?
Absolutely.
Learning how to obey the law.
Exactly.
That's what we were taught, right? And so notice there was, in that clip, nor almost anywhere out throughout that little kid's book, do you have any discussion of the law. Right? I mean, so breaking the law now is, if you're an African American doing it, that's because you're just protesting, right? What choice do you have with systemic racism holding you down? So the laws, we're not even bothering to teach the kids why the laws are all racist. We're just telling them they are. Therefore, police who exist to enforce the laws must be racist because the laws that we never explain to the kids are racist. And we haven't explained why the cops are racist other than they protect laws that we haven't explained to kids. Just victim, victim, victim to make you think that anytime an African American finds himself particularly a male, in any trouble at all, it's always going to be somebody else's fault, and it's always going to be racism. 7-year-olds, you're teaching that lesson to.
Yeah, and of course the school, when they gave the assignment out, it took more than a week for anything to be addressed with the kids. So the kids have been they were told to watch the video, and then it's been stewing probably in a lot of their mind, thinking, oh, am I racist too? And then finally anything was addressed with it. And actually it took that long. Then 2 parents complained. And it wasn't until the parents complained that the school finally decided to yank the video and the assignment that, again, didn't come until later on. But Jody Runyon, who's the Grove Elementary Director of Communications, Engagement, and Outreach, and again, I say to you as a little side note, every school now, elementary school, middle school, high school, that has these directors of communications, blah, 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 all their one and only job is to sit and wait for the time when they have to issue that statement, the non-actual informative statement saying that it's a personnel matter and we're handling it. That's the only thing that these people do, and you're paying for it, by the way, if it's a public school. But back to this. Jody Runyon actually said that this issue, after the parents complained, was successfully addressed at the school level, and she refused to provide further comment on the matter. But then when she was pushed to say, like, give us something, she actually called this situation a non-story. Because let's just teach the kids that everyone's racist, but then not actually
it's a non-story, but they pulled it. If it's a non-story, why did you pull it? I'm glad they pulled it. And you are smoking some grade A crack if you don't believe that, if you think that story was shown and then left alone.
That's also racist to say.
Did I violate?
Well, I guess going on from smoking crack to LA. So it's kind of a good segue. In Los Angeles, there is a private school that has rolled out just a couple new policies involving race, and the parents, let's just say, aren't the happiest of campers. The private school in Los Angeles is being tagged as doing the self-destruction of California's most elite private school, and this is being tagged by students, by parents, and alumni. They're saying that the leadership rolling out these extensive measures that are about promoting anti-racism is just completely ruining that school. We're talking about the Harvard Westlake School. It's a college prep school described as the destination for many children of LA's business and entertainment elite. And so what they did, there's a group, and they're called the Woke at Harvard Westlake Project. And so they had basically a Google form, and they wanted parents, alumni, students, everyone to submit their experiences. And there's some interesting ones that were revealed. Whether or not, I guess, they're 100% true, I won't know because it's these people just giving their experience. In the document, it said, "We are a rapidly growing coalition of parents, students, alums, and faculty with widely varied political and personal backgrounds who are deeply alarmed at how quickly Harvard Westlake's standards of rigor and academic excellence are being discarded in response to a campaign of accusation, denunciation, and demand by activists. Harvard Westlake has fostered bigotry for the entirety of its existence." That's one of the statements that got put.
Because look, privileged kids. Because you're a expensive private school, perhaps one of the most expensive private schools in all of Los Angeles, you are by definition racist. And notice what you've got going on. At that school, it is mostly the children of entertainers
Elites.
And the children of business people.
Business
so the
elites.
Silicon Valley types and the We Hate America Hollywood types have come together. And so what do you expect now? This was a breeding ground of privilege for doctrinaire liberal LA families. Now they're being called on it because, hey, why, if you're so open to the struggle, Hollywood, why are your kids, why are the Obama kids going to Sidwell Friends, right? Why are you rich, LeBron James's kids didn't spend their time in public schools, right? I mean, why is it that are you really down for the struggle? So I have no sympathy. I'm sure this was a very good education these kids were getting, but hey, you should have to pay that price too. Why not? Here's what you do. You allow, for every one privileged white kid you take, you allow 5 poor black kids in and make the white families pay for the black families. Will you be out of business in a week? Yeah, but that's the price you pay for equality, right? I mean, take one for the team, LA.
Well, some of the examples that were provided by, again, we don't know if it was the students or the faculty unless they specified it in their comment, the things that have been happening at the school that the administration has done, and that's why they're complaining and saying how it's making it worse. And the thing is, this is everything that's happening already in our public schools. So if mom and dad, if you're like, yeah, so this is what our kids, we thought that was their education, that's not happening originally at these elites, but now it is. So one of the examples is a dean was praising Tamika Mallory and Linda Sarsour. You know who Linda Sarsour is, the anti-Semite that she is. The associate head of school endorsed the New York Times 1619 project, and we all know that that's coming to a school near you. And an email was sent to 9th graders from a teacher informing her students that she uses the prefix MX. And again, we've talked about this many a time. In Wisconsin, there was an elementary teacher who decided to come out as being whatever and then calling himself MX. In addition, MX identifies as a queer white women, but with an X, women of European descent. So there's that. Apparently, there was no input sought from anybody within their community outside. So this is all within the school, and again, it's a private school, so it's going to be very interesting to see how they collapse on each other.
This is what happens when we allow educators and educrats alone to create pedagogy.
And one fun fact for you here is that in the school's data, they say self-described people of color comprise 55% of the student body. Interesting. And the annual tuition and fees, this is what the fun part is. Again, private school, not a college, just a private school, $45,000 to $50,000 per year.
Yep. And what does self-described racial minority mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. People of color.
Are we back? Well, self-described, does that mean that we could describe ourselves any way we want?
Yeah.
And get through it?
The teacher identifies as someone.
I guarantee you, if there are white people going to that school who identify as black, they're going to brag about how high their number of black students is. They're not going to call those white families out. Wait till they get jobs and go to college and they'll call themselves out, as we've been saying over the last few years. That seems to be how this rolls. Again, this is the problem when parents have, and nobody has any say in what goes on in terms of pedagogy. Departments of education and textbook companies put all this stuff together. So even if you wake up to this in your local school district, what can you do about it? Your teachers have all been trained to do this. They don't know how to teach math anymore at a high level. They know how to teach math that's designed to make everybody the same mathematically, to lower it. They know that they've been steeped. You went through it. Class after class after class after class after class of anti-racism, of multiculturalism. This is all they know. And by the way, let's say you pull your kid out of one public school and send them to another. What textbooks do you think you're going to use? They're going to use the same textbooks that these educrats and education professors have crafted that don't deal with educational issues. They deal with social justice issues. This is the problem when we keep arguing that people moms and dads in this country have local control of their education. They may have local control of the building in their backyard, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to buy textbooks or curriculum plans that aren't part of what everybody else is doing. This is what we, for a long time, tried to warn you about with Common Core. The danger of Common Core is not how bad it is in the classroom. It's how it brings together and unifies, monopolizes how trainings happen, how teachers are taught to teach, and the things that are available for your schools. Even if you've got a school that wants to do something else, there is nowhere to find teachers and no place to get curriculum that's going to allow you to do that.
So we just learned that the LA most, prestigious private school is being inundated with this anti-racism stuff. But we well know that it's happening all across the country in the public schools and at Chicago's school district. all the kids are not getting an education, and those ones who are supposed to be, who are at least eligible to attend and encouraged to attend their summer classes in the Summer Bridge program, it's for elementary and middle school students. Yeah, the ones who went, they didn't complete it. Just a fraction, they say, of them actually completed it. So these elementary and middle school students are not meeting criteria to advance to the next grade. So they're supposed to take summer school and, pass it then so they can move on. Well, those who actually went to the summer school didn't do so hot. And only about a fifth of them completed it.
How many of them got promoted?
Fifth. That's a good, here you go. The brass tacks says that 58,600 students of the district's 300,000 students should have done this program. 58,000 should. That's insane. About 21,600 of them enrolled, and only about 14,200 completed it. So of the 300,000 students, you got 58,000 who needed to do it. 21,000 said, okay, we'll try it, and only then 14,000 actually got through it.
That's between 15 and 20%. It's about 70%.
Yeah,
58,000 students and 300. That's about 17% of the entire student body couldn't pass it. So you gave them the summer school. Many of them didn't even bother to try to pass it.
That's correct.
And I guarantee you they're not going back to third grade if they were third graders when they started.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with it.
And if they do, that's racist.
There you go. Well, only about 10% of elementary and middle school students who are eligible for a special program for English language learners actually enrolled and completed it. Only 10% of them. Like, this is when we say that our schools need help and our schools need, we need better schools and our kids aren't learning. And then when they are offering it, again, I don't know the quality, but when there is something to be offered and then the kids aren't doing it, then what do you do? Like,
what you do is you can't hold the kids responsible, because that would be racist.
That's racist, yes.
And you can't hold the parents responsible, because that would be racist. So you got to hold the school accountable, and you got to hold the society accountable, right?
Yes.
So this is this is why we invited crappy things like white supremacy and white privilege and inherent systemic racism, because you got kids who just don't want to do the work. And look, I've taught a lot, and it's just the way it is. There are a lot of kids that come from broken homes, inner city broken homes, who have other things they're worried about. Parents aren't around. You don't got a mom and a dad in the house. School is not a priority. And if that's the case, kids aren't going to do well. I don't care what race you are.
Oh, yeah.
And yet we now can't blame that on the kids or the schools or the students. We have to blame it on society.
Well, and right now, what's even more unique is COVID, right? So now everything, they're talking about what happened this last spring and how, everyone went to remote learning, and they were saying, well, that was a whole kerfluffle. But the district claims that they're confident that the students will have an improved remote learning experience this fall. So now that means somehow that they're going to pass this fall and spring, and then so they won't need the summer school like they did because they didn't pass the spring because of COVID. It's all COVID's fault.
COVID was the best thing that happened to public education, because what it did, it showed when those kids came home, and of all different backgrounds came home, parents had the oh blank moment. And I'll do the ooh, so I can't say it on the air, right? Ooh moment, where they open up the kids' textbooks, they listen to what their kids are doing at school, they look online at what they're listening to the teacher tell kids, and they realize that these kids are ignorant because no one's teaching them. They're doing everything that has to do with everything else except serious scholarly academic work. They're not doing it because, again, academic work is hard. Teaching everybody to become a social justice warrior is easy. Hey, white kid, shut up. Listen to the experience of your black neighbor. And the fact that he can only speak in fragments and monosyllabic words, well, that's superiority, right? That's a good thing. You got to stop. You halt your educational path to be like them. That's equality. Let's everybody be stupid together. One big stupid clown car together is what tolerance and inclusivity gets us.
It's time for some real education, featuring Ringo. The Beatles' album Revolver, released on August 5th, 1966, is one of the earliest albums of the psychedelic era. Its U.S. release came 3 days later. To design the cover, the band recruited Klaus Voormann, a friend from their Hamburg days. Voormann's spacey collage of drawings and photos complemented songs that reflected the Beatles' LSD experiments during its production. Voormann's design won a Grammy for Best Album Cover, but the artist was paid a mere £50, which is about $140 for this piece of rock and roll history.
Yeah, so it's something a little bit different on Instant Classic. We're taking a look at some of the very innovative Beatles album covers, and we're going to start with Revolver. You think about album covers up until the 60s, they were pretty bland affairs, and like everything else the Beatles did. Also, it's very interesting that Katie, when she mentioned the Beatles, she only mentioned Ringo.
Ringo!
All right, so that tells you something about what kind of a kid she is.
The drummer.
Shorter than everybody else. Sitting in the back while everybody else is in the front, least musically talented, right? There's a lot that says which Beatle you like. But this particular album cover is interesting because take a look at it. You have the hand-drawn pictures of Paul in the upper left and Ringo in the bottom left and George in the bottom right and John in the top right. And the only one who looks directly out at you is the piercing eyes of George Harrison. And you have these really funkadelic illustrations done with actual cutouts from various photography. Give us a little closer image of this, Mike. And you can sort of see the boys. There's, I believe, George in a pith helmet. There's John, and you can see the boys from various, the black cat on the right there. So it's very, you can imagine certainly how this in literally a year and a half, this was going to turn into Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band and the frenetic nature of that album cover. But what I like about this is that it's very pop art, isn't it? You think about the album Revolver. Of all the Beatles albums, this is the one that perhaps most clearly stands between the early "Yeah, She Loves You, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah" stuff and the psychedelic stuff that was going to come, primarily Sgt. Pepper. So this is really a transitional album from them. And if you look at the songs on this, you've got songs like Taxman, a very conservative, one of the top 10 conservative songs ever written, where George Harrison is whining about how much taxes they pay. You've got Eleanor Rigby, right? Oh, poor Eleanor Rigby, Paul McCartney, right? Sitting alone by the fire. Nobody cares when she dies. But you got some psychedelic. I'm only sleeping when I wake up early in the morning.
Oh, yes.
Another Yellow Submarine is on this album. You've also got And Your Bird Can Sing, which is one of my favorite Beatles songs. You tell me that you got everything you want. And your bird can sing,
yeah, that
but
too.
You can't have me.
Let's go back to Yellow Submarine. Yes. Who sings that one?
Ringo.
Ringo!
I'm beginning to think that this must be a UK release because in the American Revolver, that song does not appear until later in the catalog. So we're gonna remove Yellow Submarine for that. And but so you've got all these a whole host of songs. Got to Get You Into My Life with its brass, almost like something that Doris Day could have sung. So you've got this incredible range of songs on this album, and I think if you go back to the album cover again, you will see that. Look at the hair. The hair's grown out. This is really the first album cover that shows them with non-little Beatle bobs, where they've just let the hair go. They don't have the facial hair yet. That's coming in the next album. But this is right between She Loves You, Yeah, 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 and so I think it's an interesting visual reminder of the evolving way the Beatles were heading.
Ringo! Now, just as a reminder, these premier beverage vessels of freedom are now available when you join our Patriot Club with a one-time $99 tax-deductible donation. All you have to do to get started is visit patriotclub.us. That's patriotclub.us, and your gift keeps our show growing. So thank you. Thank you very much.
This is really a middle finger to Facebook and Twitter, who, if they treated us like everybody else, we'd be making bank.
Huh.
Katie and I we'd be rolling in a flat top. We'd be sipping on gin and juice.
All right, we're going to wrap things up with our fun fact of the day. Harvard Westlake was actually two schools that were combined. Harvard School was for boys, and it began in 1900, and Westlake School was for girls, and that began in 1904. The schools merged then in 1989, and famous alumni include my favorite drummer, not Ringo, Phil Collins' daughter, Lily Collins, Jake and Maggie Gyllenhaal, Jamie Lee Curtis, Tori Spelling, John Lovitz, and the beloved Shirley Temple.
Well, studio to you. And that's going to do it for the Dr. Duke Show. For Freedom Project, I am Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, stay educated, my friends.